In the pledge, please rise, put your hand over your heart.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll observe a moment of silence. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Shivi. Breckus. Zadra. Delgado. Dorch.
Here.
Jardin. Cashel.
Here. Any public comment cards? Have no public comment. I'll take it to approval of the agenda. Have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimous. Approval of the minutes for April 23rd and May 7th. The motion is made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Public hearings, 1:30. Madam Secretary, all notice has been sent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, proper notice was given and no correspondence was received.
Okay. Item G1, City of Reno fiscal year budget adoption. Item G11.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Manager. Kate Thomas with the Office of Management and Budget, here to present to you the items under G1. NRS 354-598 specifies the process for municipal budget adoption and provides for that public process. And as you're aware, City Council and the Redevelopment Agency held public budget workshops on Wednesday, April 23rd and May 7th, where public
Mr. Dorch, could you cover up your mic so we don't have to pick up the background?
You got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public budget workshops were held on Wednesday, April the 23rd, and on May 7th, where public input was heard, and therefore council provided staff with direction to prepare the final budget for adoption today. Additionally, a presentation on the overall health of the regional economy was presented to the City Council during the regular meeting in advance of the workshops on April the 16th. A few modifications since the workshops include the addition of 2 firefighters, bringing the number of retained positions to 17, the addition of a medical marijuana establishment zoning verification letter with an effective date of today, which is May the 20th, and that's the only proposed fee with an adopted date of other than the July 1st effective date, as well as changes in business licensing pertaining to fees for medical marijuana establishments as part of the fee schedule that you're adopting today. Additionally, you may note that in the tentative document sent to the state on April 15, it did not include the manager and council recommendations that we discussed or the $7.5 million RTC payment as we talked about those items during the open public workshops. The final budget adopted here today will include those items as discussed during the public process in April and May. So now you will hear in order of adoption items today, G1, which is a public hearing adopting the City of Reno's tentative budget, tax levies, and the fee schedule as required by NRS 354. Item G2 is a public hearing adopting Reno Redevelopment Agency 1 and 2 tentative budgets and a resolution adopting the final city and RDA budgets for fiscal 15. And lastly, at 3 p.m. today, due to a scheduling and noticing timing that occurred prior to council's direction to move today's budget hearing from 3 o'clock to 1:30, you'll be hearing that item, the public hearing to potentially approve the levy of assessments for fiscal 15 downtown special assessment districts for both police and maintenance at 3 o'clock today. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on the public hearing for the tentative adoption of the final budget or the fee schedule as you see fit.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Edger.
Kate, you made reference to the two positions that would be kept from the enterprise fund reassignment. I didn't catch if you did, I'm sorry I missed, reference to the vote for the additional, the incentive, the bribery for early retirement for senior firefighters to therefore keep some of the younger ones, still having the same number of people on force, but just paying one to leave early so that younger ones won't be laid off. Is that in here as well?
That's correct. That's an action that council voted on at the meeting where that
And
was
so
before
when
you.
action is taken on the budget, can we break that piece out in particular for those of us who voted against that particular option that still want to be in approval of the city's budget? Can we take that action out to stand on its own?
So the action to allow for the early retirement for those individuals occurs during the current fiscal year that we're in right now.
That's right.
So you had already
That's
acted on that. So that is not included in the budget going forward as far as the severance costs.
Thank you.
Mr. Klinger.
Councilwoman, we will be bringing back an augmentation, and Ms. Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be bringing back an augmentation at the end of June,
Correct.
and that augmentation would include that proposal.
Exactly.
One's accepting a staff report.
Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. You are acting on behalf of each agency separately, so we would request legally you do separate motions and separate resolutions.
Okay, I have one person wish to speak. Ted Hammond. Teddy Hammond? Oh.
It's Tila. That's okay. I figured out who he was meaning.
You don't look like Ted,
I hope not.
but that's what it looks like writing to me, was Ted. So come on, Ted.
So my name's Tila Hammond. I'm a CPA. I'm also chair of the city's Financial Advisory Board. As you know, one of our duties is on the Financial Advisory Board is to review the budget. Our board is comprised of citizens in the community with a strong financial and accounting backgrounds. We are all concerned about the future of Reno, and we hope that our motions, when presented to you, are taken into consideration. So today, I'm here to read the FAB's motion on the 2014-2015 budget that you guys are about to approve. We did not approve the 14-15 budget as presented in full to us, which is the first time that we have not since I can recall being on this board. The parts that we weren't comfortable with is we felt that the $1 million in savings in fiscal year 15 from the payoff of the City Hall building debt should go to a contingency to cover the projected deficit in fiscal year 2016 and not to fund new ongoing expenditures. We also didn't feel it was fiscally responsible for the city to incur another $1.2 million in proposed ongoing expenditures, knowing that the city would be in a deficit position in 2016. Finally, we felt that the retention of the firefighting staff affected by the loss of the SAFER grant should be funded by the savings generated by the Reno Fire Department only. We were aware of council's priorities and the pressure that council faces from constituents, but we also know that most citizens do not understand the fiscal situation that the city is in, as we do as members of the Financial Advisory Board since we're reviewing the financials every month. So we could not in good conscience advocate for an increase in spending when we knew that there would be a deficit in the 2016 fiscal year. Additionally, we've talked many times in our meeting about the OPEB liability and workers' comp liability, and as was presented this budget anyways, there was nothing was taken into consideration for that, and so for that reason is why we did not approve the budget as presented to us.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just a couple questions real quick. First of all, in regards to the two additional firefighters, I thought we were going to have a discussion on that, that we wanted to get the report back from the BFAC, and then we were going to discuss it further, and I don't think we've done that.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Klinger.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Dortch, we took the action at the last council meeting as direction to include those. And if my recollection is correct, what the BFAC had asked for is for us to work with them on a go-forward basis to bring back data to them that supported the need to take those transfers out of the enterprise fund to support the plans review and the inspection service. So we took that action from the last council meeting as an affirmative to include those two positions in the budget, and we have done that. But certainly if council would give us direction to remove those, we can do that as well.
Okay, I thought the direction was we wanted to find out just from the BFAC if the funds were available, and then from there we could decide how we wanted to allocate those. And then just a couple questions then for Robert, real quick. And it's just based on that spreadsheet that you gave me, Robert. And it's just because I've been accused of making these figures up. And I want to make sure that they're right. Is Robert at the mic yet?
He's at the
Robert
mic.
Chisel is at the mic.
Okay, so I'm looking at the spreadsheet that you gave me, and I see that you broke it down by each union, and then you also broke it down by the entire department. And in that, I see for IAFF alone, direct pay and benefits for direct pay and benefits in the IAFF is $129,320. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is Robert Chisel, Director of Finance and Administration, for the record. What that was for fiscal year 13.
Correct.
Again, depending on who's reporting and what period of time, the numbers will vary slightly from year
Correct.
to year and period from period. And this included all employees, whether they were only worked for 6 months or the full
Right,
year.
I saw that too in the list you gave me. Yeah.
And whether they were terminated their employment during that year, in which time they would get leave payoff. So it was a complete 100%. It wasn't anything taken out.
Right. So then in the RFDAA, I've got 228,889. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. And then if I go in and I add the post-employer benefits and the heart and lung, it brings the IAFF up to a total cost to the city per person in the IAFF at $151,291. Is that correct?
That's correct, if you add everything in.
Right. And we do. I mean, that is a cost to the city, so that should be included, correct?
Well,
Whether we're paying it now or paying it as we go, it's still
well,
a cost.
the OPEB is a cost that we're doing pay-as-you-go. That would be at what it would cost to if we were paying the
Pay it
full
upfront.
ARC. So it's
Okay.
it's really not being paid yet. That's why it's separated out. It is
And
what
then
the liability is.
So based on these numbers, if we were to put a two-man medical unit in one of the closed fire stations, my calculation is that this would probably end up costing us over $1 million to put a two-man medical unit in one of those stations 24/7.
I'd probably defer to the fire chief on how he would staff it to get it.
Well, it'd be. I mean, I'm just quick math. It'd be. You'd have to have 3 shifts at 151 apiece, get you to 900. You're going to have someone to cover sick leave and vacation pay. That's going to get you there before you even start accounting in equipment and maintenance and everything else. Correct?
Yeah, again, I haven't worked with the chief to come up with how many staffing he would need, but based on what you're presenting, I'd agree.
Okay. And then we did get that bid, the quote from REMSA to put a medical unit, an ambulance, in one of the areas where we have a closed out station 24/7, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I requested from REMSA what it would be for a 2-person response unit and what it would be for a 2-person ambulance at the Somerset station, what their costs would be.
And what were those figures coming out, Robert?
The cost for the 2-person response unit is $410,000. The 2-person ambulance would be $450,000.
So half the cost, and we aren't even allowed to put a 2-person medical unit in. I just wanted to get that. But half of the cost, if we were allowed to put a 2 medical unit, it would be half the cost of what it would cost us. Less than half.
Correct.
And then based on that, it comes back to what I was mentioning at our meeting where we were talking about these firemen. I think it would be critical for us to at least consider this option in these areas where you've got over 90% of the calls are medical calls, and at least we get some benefit back to the public. If we move forward with what's proposed on the table today, there's no benefit back to the public. We're adding 2 firefighters. We're not reducing overtime. We're not doing any of the things that we need to be doing as a community. There's no additional service to the public. And I think it's important that we actually look at this and consider this option.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'll ask Councilmember Dortch, how do you plan on building that into the budget here today?
What do you mean? I mean, I think at the worst case scenario is we go back to Remsen and say, okay, what would it cost for 12 hours a day instead of 24? That's still an additional service to the public. And it's still, and probably be half the cost of the other, which is less than half the cost of those 2 firefighters.
So would you carve out some revenue out of another source today to do that? I mean, I'm trying to understand.
No, I wouldn't. As I said before, I wouldn't bring those other 2 firefighters back.
Oh, I see.
That we're not getting any benefit from. I mean, we're not opening another station. We're not providing any additional service to the public. And this provides an additional service to the public.
Chief, Fire Chief, would you come up a minute?
And one option we could do today is defer this. We could approve the budget, have the additional funds go into the general fund, and we could make a decision on this with if everyone wants to vet it a little bit more, we could make a decision at our next meeting.
Chief, you want to address what additional firemen do for us and stuff?
Mr. Mayor, for the record, Fire Chief Mike Hernandez. For the benefit of the manager, mayor, members of the council, let me just couch this answer in terms that we can all understand. Come July 1, we're going to have 183 firefighters in this department that are the boots on the ground. That's 61 firefighters assigned per shift. We have to go back to 1977 to have those levels. Let me say that again. 1977 is when we had 61 firefighters assigned to shift. So, we are giving pink slips to 35 firefighters day after tomorrow. We are considering paying an outside private ambulance company $500,000 to provide a service that they are already supposed to be providing. We currently service the Somerset area in 6, 8, and 9-minute, depending on where the call is located from. So I cannot, as your fire chief, recommend that we entertain a concept of paying a private ambulance company to do what they're supposed to be doing anyway, an additional $500,000, while we're giving 35 firefighters a pink slip and showing them the door. 2 individuals will increase our floating or our floaters, our pool of floaters. That will offset anyone who takes a vacation leave slot. So is there a benefit to the organization? There's a benefit to the community? Absolutely. Is it going to open a station? No, it's not. But it's going to add additional floating staff that will offset individuals that take leave, vacation, sick, military, FEMLA, maternity, etc. So that you understand the global nature of where we are at this point in time with respect to our fire department and our service. That is my answer to this question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chief, just real quick, if you could, and you had the resources, would you put a 2-man rescue unit in any of the closed out stations?
Councilmember Dortch, for the record, Reno Fire Chief Mike Hernandez, yes, I would. I would certainly place one at the Somerset station. I would certainly place one at the Skyline station. And I would also work with the associations to place them in very high volume areas such as Station 1 downtown. Yes, I would.
Okay. So if I could do that for half the cost, less than half the cost that it would cost the city of Reno, shouldn't I do that as a council person?
That's a policy, sir. That's a policy decision you would make. I'm your fire chief. I'm only giving you my opinion on fire service,
right, but you're
staffing,
saying,
et cetera.
you're saying we shouldn't hire an outside company to do that for us. And I'm saying they're doing it for less than half the cost.
Correct.
And yet you would put someone in that station if you could at over twice the cost.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's not that we're going out and hiring REMSA for something that they're already doing. It's that we're having them backfill for us in areas that we don't have the same coverage that we had prior to July 1.
and
right?
That's one perspective, yes.
I mean, it's fairly accurate, right? I mean, you would love to have a two-man rescue unit in those stations
How close is your,
at the cost of over $1 million a year.
Well, doesn't Chief, to your defense, contractually, you just don't have the ability to do that right now, correct?
Correct. And I'm going to be very cautious when I start discussing staffing and options, because we are in negotiations, and these are items
know.
that are open. So I'm going to be very guarded with my answers,
No,
because
and
I
I
don't want to
understand
get
that,
into a complaint.
And I understand that, and it's certainly, I think, the direction that all of us would like to see. You just don't currently have that option available to you.
Correct. That is, you're absolutely correct, and that is an item that is, if I'm not mistaken, it's on the table,
To summarize,
along with other staffing issues.
Just summarize,
Mr. Mayor,
what's
I'm going to have to
before-
apologize. I've got to get on my plane.
Okay.
okay?
To summarize, what's on the table is maintaining 2 of the people who would otherwise get the pink slips
Yes.
with the BFAC money.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know where we are in the procedure of voting, but I do support that. I really wish we could keep more. And I had a proposal last time that did not gain traction, and I think it's an avenue we need to explore. Looking at all the resources that come to this region and how they're used best, and I think in some areas they're not being used best. But I think keeping these 2 is the way we have to go.
Mr. Klinger?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify the record on one of the comments, and that is that we're using BFAC money to fund firefighters. That is absolutely not true. BFAC is funding the services that they are receiving as an industry. It's plans review and field inspection, that freed up general fund that is paying for the firefighters. So I just want the record to be clear on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Did someone else, I'm sorry, I didn't look up. Did any of you have anything to mention?
No.
to that?
I was just
Okay.
gonna make a motion.
I want to respond to the, our chairperson from the FAB who came, her comments, because it touched on something that I wanted to mention. And I do appreciate her coming down today. I think they're one of our hardest working groups.
Let's take
Okay.
this item
Oh,
first
okay.
before we go
Okay,
into that.
okay, sure.
The motion
Yeah,
for the
this
2.
is for the 2 fires. Somebody give me a motion.
So moved.
So is it to accept the staff recommendation?
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion to accept staff's recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second, it's on the fire, just on the fire, yep.
Mr. Mayor and council, if I might, the staff recommendation is on the entire fiscal year 15 budget, which does include the 2 firefighters.
Correct.
Oh,
So we're
well,
not going to take a motion now.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Motion, you mind withdrawing your
Reconsider
motion?
my
Thank you.
motion.
Okay, then, back to the FAB, if I may?
Yep, please.
Okay, with regard to the FAB, I do appreciate their comments and their analysis very much. I support the purchasing, the debt relief of the City Hall building. I think it is a good appropriate response. But she does raise a point, and that is one that I wanted to raise, and because they said, put it into a contingency. I would like to propose that as the year goes by and there's either salary savings or there's revenues in whatever area come in above, that those do go and get ushered over to contingency. So at the time augmentations are brought, council can look at it and decide, hey, these are unmet needs. We want to go this way, we want to go that way. So I'll take the manager's response on that, because, and contrary, and tell me how I'm suggesting something that was different from how it was done this year.
Councilwoman, what I would recommend is that we bring back to this body quarterly the status of where we're at. I mean, the budget is something, the revenues and the expenditures is something that we monitor throughout the year, and we can certainly report back to this body on what those results are as we go through the next fiscal year. I wouldn't necessarily want to see some automatic triggers or automatic sweeps happen. I think you'd want to leave that to to your discretion, frankly.
But as it's been, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this isn't meant to be confrontational, is as it's occurred over the last year, when there have been increases, they've just gone into, assignments of budget lines by the managers, budget office. And so I would like the council to have that, if you outline that retains the council more discretion than it's been in the past, that is the way I'd like to go.
And I don't believe every single one of the augmentations, every change that we've brought forward has been at this council's discretion. So to say that they are, my decisions, I would say is inaccurate. We brought every single one of those augmentations back for this body to decide how those funds would be allocated. And a lot of those are just true-ups within budgets. It's not new money coming in.
And if I could clarify further, Kate Thomas for the Record, Office of Management and Budget, some of the revenue sources for some of those augmentations are specifically line itemed out as increases in revenues. So you will see those on that executive summary and in that augmentation report as if we don't have savings in a department per se to offset or move it from somewhere else, you can see in some of those line items, we are recommending to council and they have approved, you have approved those items as increases in revenues to offset those expenditures.
Well, I guess, I read your narrative to the state, and you mentioned, I think, ad valorem going in, commercial ad valorem having increased, at a certain rate. So how does that get swept during the course of the year? If that's beyond your budget projection, where does that get allocated? How are you taking?
Any councilwoman and the rest of the council, anything that comes in above or even below what we are projecting in this budget goes to ending fund balance. So we talk about the 8.3% ending fund balance target that we have. Last year we had a little over 4%. So as those revenues come in, if they come in higher, it goes to that ending fund balance and increases that ending fund balance. So they don't necessarily get spent anywhere. They sit in reserves. They're not set aside in a contingency account. They're sitting there in the ending fund balance.
Well, I guess what I would suggest then is when you come forward on those augmentations, and maybe this information was there and I wasn't looking for it the way I had hoped I would be, was that the ending fund balance has grown by this much over the last quarter in an increase on our projected quarterly growth of it, and here's where it comes from. And then at that point, the council can say, we want to throw it to contingency, we want to start, a little nicking away at our OPEB, or we want to bring back a firefighter who's on layoff. That's what flexibility I'll be looking for at the augmentations, and I think that is, as the council, I think that is our fiduciary responsibility during the budget cycle.
And we can look at those, and I'm really sorry we didn't get the FAB report earlier when we were putting the budget together and stuff like this. At least if we did, I didn't see it or get it. Did you? Okay, my fault. I was asleep. All right. We did. My mistake. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I have another.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get this. We're going to get a motion on the staff report, accepting the staff report.
Well, I have another point I'd like to bring up about the budget, and that is, and it's really just helping my understanding, is this is our second year adopting the budget. This is the budget that I have in my packet. This is what I guess is going down to the state, right? Mm-hmm. But then, in July or so, this shows up on my desk. So I'm just trying to understand, because a lot of times expenses would come up during the course of the year, and I get the answer, it's in the budget. And I don't know where to turn and find. Maybe it is a process, since someone does bring up that we have a large consent agenda with a lot of money going through, is more detail in the financial implications of the staff reports, where it is in the budgets, so we can understand and track. So what are we adopting today? What is it, this or is it this? And I guess a follow-up question is, Assistant City Manager Matijevich brought up last time that any positions in excess of what we've had, and I think the number is in the PowerPoints, for each department, comes through on a budget augmentation. I just want clarity, confirmation that's how it works, and the other question on what is the budget.
Councilwoman and the rest of the council, if I might jump in, you're adopting the entire budget. The problem is, well, you're adopting that, what goes into that book. You're adopting that today. The reason that is not presented to you ahead of time is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of staff time that has to go into putting that report together. Now, we have, and I believe we provided to council, all of the line item detail that
Right.
is supplied into that. So while we didn't give you that publication, all of the information that goes in that publication was provided to all of the council members. So what you adopt today and what goes into that publication does not change.
Okay, and so really the piece to look at is the book you gave us in the beginning, and then and I'm not criticizing, I'm trying to understand is, a very good job is done through the PowerPoint presentations to show us the changes over year status, and I get that, but, okay, so I'll be able to point in here, even though this is what we have before, and then on the position, even though we have a number of frozen positions that came up at the last meeting, any position above and beyond what was in the book you gave us first will come forward for position creation or augmentation, correct?
Correct, Kate Thomas, Office of Management and Budget. Touching back on a previous comment and then leading into that one, the tentative budget is the document you are holding up. We are required by law to submit that by April 15th, and as you can imagine, we've not gone through the public process here where you've made decisions and direction to staff on what goes into that final document, which is the one you held up in your right hand. So the tentative budget submitted to the state. We have the public hearing here today for the tentative document. The binder that you were originally provided, the line item binder, along with the changes that council has set forth during the budget process that we've had over several workshops, becomes therefore that final document that you have. So hopefully that clarifies that process for you. Additionally, the number of positions are laid out in that document. And yes, any other positions outside of what council has adopted in the budget today would come forward to you in the form of an augmentation.
And then how do you maintain position control as positions become open during the course of the year for whatever purpose? Do you just refill those? Do you have a process?
Each director, if I may, each director has taken the time and strategic position where they look at every vacant position, and there will be no frozen positions in the budget going forward. As you adopt the budget here, we've taken all those frozen positions and funded those. So we don't have in the fiscal 15 budget frozen positions per se. So when a position becomes vacant, the department director or manager or whomever comes forward with, do we need to fill that position? At what level do we fill it? Do we combine it with another? I mean, they do a good bit of analysis as to what is necessary for the operation of their department. And then that is taken to the city manager for consideration.
And that's covered in the day-to-day operations.
Correct. That is under the city manager's
purview. And not at this
purview.
level.
Correct.
What about
And
grant?
for clarity on that very piece, either for you, Kate, or Mr. Manager, it's total number of positions within the city, not necessarily by operating area that this council approves. So if you want to reposition or find an area in one department that you believe you can combine those services with other employees and create a new position in a different department, that is your responsibility without
Absolutely.
any interference from this council to do, correct?
Correct. As long as that doesn't go outside of the budgeted authority for which you are provided, which the council approves.
Total number of employees, not how
Budget
or
authority,
where.
I guess, is what I would use number. So if, let's say you wanted to take a higher level position and carve it into two part-time positions or lesser paid positions, as long as you don't go over that budgeted amount that the council has set forward, that's what we leave up to the discretion of the city manager.
And it's one accumulative amount that we've approved. We do not approve and interfere by department, correct?
That is correct. And I think a perfect example in this last fiscal year was the revitalization manager and the reassignment of that position. That did not change the budget at all, and so that was something that I felt, based on discussions that the council had, that was important for putting an emphasis on downtown. And so I made that decision.
Absolutely.
Within
I want to
the-
make sure that we're
And that's
still
your
ensuring
authority.
that.
Well-
And I'm not sure I was hearing that conversation prior to my asking the question.
No, you
This
weren't.
council has no authority or responsibility as policymakers to interfere with your ability to operate. You and the clerk, the city clerk, are the only employees that we determine who will do what and when.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I guess I see it a little differently. When I see the budget with, say, community development having, 20 positions, and say a position and it, you know, I'm adopting a budget with 20 positions in the community development department, or what the chief said, 218 in the fire. Then one of those positions is moved, relocated, and the police department has, you know, has a position added over there. That to me is outside of the budget. We are
That's called
approving a staff.
micromanaging.
No, you're
That's
misunderstanding. We're
not our-
approving a staff complement for each department. The budget, as it goes down to the state, has a staffing complement and a budget number. And so I do think that's why I'm asking, what is the budget?
Well, the budget is what they've given you, and the micromanaging does not come to us. We set policies, we depend on them. If they need to move somebody from A to B, that's their decision.
So
They
you
need to do it. We don't need to tell them.
Now, I will add to that, if we're moving positions from one department to another that requires a change in the budget, we would have to bring that budget augmentation back to this table. So as long as it's within a department, and it doesn't require a budget change, then it wouldn't come back. If in your example, we're moving positions from Public Works to the police department, and that would trigger a change in police department and Public Works budget. But if it's just within the police department budget or within the Public Works department budget, then it would not come back.
Well, you are answering the question to my satisfactory inquiry, because we did, through this process, and as highlighted, move two positions from police to Public Works. And so say there's a change of thought, and we want to move them back to, so the staffing complement is a part of what we are approving as related to the overall budget number for each department. Okay.
The overall budget number, but not the FTE count, I guess is what I would
That's
say.
right.
Yeah,
Ms. Jordan?
And I guess my only point to that is, you know, I think getting into the weeds that much really kind of restricts management's operational efficiencies when you start getting into the weeds that much. And I guess I feel like we have given that authority and that discretion to our city manager, and we should hold him accountable as such. So that's our mechanism if we have questions or concerns with distribution of personnel. But I certainly don't believe it's efficient in any way to start micromanaging and getting in the weeds on some of these.
Couldn't agree more. Any other questions or anything?
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, just my final comment is, you know, it's in the level of details. You want to sit and write $155 million on a piece of paper and hand it to your manager, go for it. I don't think that is the most, I think there's a little more detail that goes with it.
I don't think that's what we're doing,
looking
Ms.
around,
Brackett.
and I use that as a gross example. My other question is.
Clarify it as a gross example.
My other question is about the CIP, because this did come up. There was a project that a Public Works project that was brought up for part of my ward, and we got the CIP presentation, and then the CIP is a separate document that I think, under Mr. Klinger's leadership, has made leaps and bounds in terms of being a realistic, good document, so I'm very pleased with that. But I didn't see an opportunity, or it wasn't highlighted. I don't have the book. What are the new projects? I did see a memo of the new projects, and it wasn't presented really to the council that, hey, if you want to add through the CIP process, this is when CIP projects come on. I was very pleased to see that the police department's headquarters were on there, because they weren't on last year when, you know, I'm being asked to attend meetings from people who are looking at building the police department. It's like, let's get it on the CIP. But I didn't see that one project that the Parks Director had told me the Parks Department had put on the CIP for the out years, and it was the Idlewild Lighting Path Program. That wasn't mentioned in the memo that came forward.
For the record, Kate Thomas, Office of Management and Budget. In the actual CIP document that's published, it looks very similar to the budget document that you put up. We have a list of the projects for the current year, and then we have a list, I believe, of the projects that are included in the out years. Is that right, Cindy? in the final book, the published document that you have up there. So through the process of, and you know, perhaps we'll present this differently next year, so it's very clear that council has, during the public workshop process, the ability to add to it, to the CIP list at any time, any projects that you wish. I mean, we sort of, I guess in the past, leave that up to the department directors or those folks that are participating in the CIP committee to bring forward to council, which is presented in the binder that you were given at the beginning of the budget process, to which if you would like to make any changes, we're certainly open to hearing them during that budget process. So perhaps next year what we could do is have a highlighted slide on CIP and ask specific council direction should there be additional projects that would be so inclined to be
Well,
added.
and if I might jump in, Mr. Mayor, I mean, we did present on slides the CIP budget. So we presented each one of the funds to council, and that's our recommendation. I guess what I would say to Ms. Thomas's comments about if council wants to add, I guess if council wants to reprioritize and take some off the list and add something else, I mean, the ability to just add doesn't exist unless we obviously identify the funding. So, I mean, does council have the ability to reprioritize those? Yes. I mean, we bring them forward to you as our recommendation. Here's the priorities that we think are important when it comes to the capital improvement program. And certainly when we presented those slides, council had the ability to change those recommendations.
Yeah, and you're just talking about the current year, but the CIP is a document that is multi-year, and so I'm talking about the multi-year out years. And I guess, can you just tell me yes or no, is that Idlewide bike light project on the out years? Okay, so the Parks Department did put that in. Okay, because I didn't see that on the memo.
No, it's not necessarily funded.
Pardon me? No, it was stated that there's not money this year, and the priorities for that money were stated out to me, and I took a look at them and I went, well, that's too bad, but let's get it on an out year.
And that's correct. We do have items on the CIP that are not identified for funding, but it is for our, you know, for council's edification to show those projects so that you can decide, does one project or another trump one that you would recommend funding over something that's being proposed to you for current year. I mean, obviously, there's so many more asks than the ability to fund that we have to keep track of what those projects are, and that's our mechanism for doing so.
Yeah. And the first step is getting them in for the out years, and that's what I was looking for this one, but I understood the priorities for this year. Okay, and that's, I'll just, if I can move on, my issue with baseball is related to the resolution, but I want to bring it up right now for some questions, if I may, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Mr. Chisel, the baseball payments, which are pursuant to the restructuring and the fire station debt, when do those get cut to Nevada Land?
Robert Chisel, Director of Finance and Administration. I believe it's every December and June. I'll have to verify, but that is my recollection at this time.
Okay, so the June one.
It's split in two.
Okay, yeah. So the June payment will come from fiscal 13-14.
Correct.
A payment from December, in December, if we adopt the budget as presented, will come from the 14-15 budget.
Correct.
Okay, and the budget has built in how much for baseball?
Well, there is the payment of the $850,000, of which $750 is allocated to the fire station relocation loan, and then the difference is the extra $100,000.
Let me ask you, since I'm holding up this year's budget book, how come under redevelopment area 2, the name of bond or loan for Nevada Land LLC, the original amount of issue was $6 million. The final payment date is June 2018. The interest rate is variable, which I guess I understand because there was a deferral and it was somewhat variable. But it said that for fiscal year ending June 30, 2013, the interest payable was $150,000 and the principal paid was $600,000. So this year's budget has $750,000 to pay baseball, right?
A total of $850,000.
No. This current fiscal year.
Well, this current fiscal year has $850,000 also.
850.
I thought it was only $750,000, and it was, oh, it was $850, oh, okay,
Yeah,
it was
it's
$850, and that was all principal on the fire station loan?
No, 750 goes to, 750 goes to the fire station relocation loan. Of that 750, a portion is interest. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, unfortunately, and a portion of it goes to principal to pay down that, the debt.
For fiscal 13-14?
Correct.
So 150 was interest, 150,000 was interest this year. it wasn't a part of this support payments. Is that true?
It is built, that is
It's
built
built
into
in.
that 750,000. Of that 750 that's going to the fire station relocation loan, a portion is principal and a portion is interest.
Okay.
And this year, the interest, of course, will be less because the principal keeps going down year
Okay.
by year.
Okay, so for 14-15, that's the first year that a support payment under the language of the,
No,
Agree-
this current year we're in right now, 13-14 was the
Right.
first year.
how can you, are you calling interest the same as a support payment?
A portion of it is interest.
The total payment was 850,000.
Right.
Of that, 750,000 was for the fire station relocation loan. And the numbers I believe you're looking at, I don't have the book in front of me, but of that 750, 600 and something of it breaks down as principal, and then 150 of it roughly breaks down as interest. That's just for the fire station relocation loan. It was wrapped into the total agreement with baseball.
Okay, so this year, so current fiscal year, we had support payments.
Correct.
100,000.
Okay, that is different than my understanding. I thought this was the first year that the support
No.
payments came in.
13, 14
We
is
voted on it
the
and-
first year. And then, it's roughly the same this year. The principal and interest change on the fire station relocation loan, because obviously as you pay down that principal, the interest changes.
Right.
Well, there's a
voted on that
payment
about a year and a half
schedule, yeah, there's a payment schedule on the back. Is that the restructuring agreement right there? Can you put on the payment schedule so I could see it?
Whoa.
That's good.
So it was 850 this last year, and it'll be 850 again this year. Okay, and 100,000 each year is a support payment, which is what I would deem the subsidy.
Yeah, it's 850 out through
Well,
18.
redevelopment was paying $100,000 a year through the redevelopment agency because it was generating that. But when we negotiated the 750, we added the 100 to it to make it an 850.
Okay. So I guess I had it wrong in my mind, because I was not going to I was not going to support any support payments. Tell me this,
And default?
is the 850 that we'll pay this year, when does the support payment go? Or when does the support payment go this current year? Is it the first 425, is it the
It
second
de-
425?
Again, there's the fire station relocation loan used to be paid on a quarterly basis. The new agreement we have with them changed it to twice a year. And so twice a year, we pay them $425,000. The fire station relocation loan is wrapped into that payment. So it's not saying one is only a portion of it. It is prorated for each payment. So you could say 50,000 is really going to the subsidy, if you want to call it a subsidy, or however you want to term that extra 100,000 from the 750 to 850, is 50 is paid in June, 50 is paid in December.
Because in the budget book, under debt for RDA 2, it shows 750. It doesn't show the subsidy payment. It has to be booked somewhere else,
Yeah,
correct?
well, the debt is shown separately because it's still an outstanding debt until we have made the full payments at the end of 2018.
2018.
So we still owe them the money
Why are you calling it variable in the budget book?
because the interest rate is variable.
Yes.
So what's the interest rate this year, and what was it last year?
The interest rate is based on LIBOR, and it's, less than a percentage point.
The restructuring agreement did not talk about an insurance reprieve? I thought I read that in there.
The variable rate is on the fire station
Relocation
relocation
loan.
loan piece.
I thought, okay.
Not on the
I guess I need to look back at the baseball agreement. I thought interest rate was waived for a certain time. Okay. So you would construe each payment, the 425, the subsidy coming 51 in the first payment, 50 in the second payment?
Correct. And
Okay.
that is how we're doing the loan payment reductions in
Okay,
there.
that's how you're booking it
Yes.
internally? Okay, okay. My question on the resolution, I'll just bring it up since we're on baseball, is how come the whereas with the resolution says, Where's the resolution? I'm sorry. It calls out, I'm sorry. You know, I'll hold if anyone else has any other questions and
I
get a
do.
copy of the
Yeah, we got a
resolution.
I do.
question here.
Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Sheedy.
Mr. Chisel, it's correct that they still, Nevada Land LLC still has not paid their property tax. Is that right? Or they have, or where are we at?
Robert Chisel again, for the record, my understanding is as of today, they have not paid the property tax on the stadium property.
Okay. So redevelopment agency is roughly 259,000. City of Reno is 338,000. So around 600,000 in property tax to us. And then the other thing is Washoe County School District is also owed 424,000, approximately. Okay. So I guess I have some issues with that in the sense that here we are appropriating funds to Nevada Land LLC, and they haven't paid their property tax yet. So, and not to mention, when it comes out of the general fund, that's where I really, ever since I've stepped into this seat, this is where I've really had an issue, coming out of the general fund, because it should be used for core services. And then I guess my next question would be for Chief Hernandez. He's like, uh-oh. Come on out. All I want is some clarification on, there have been a lot of rumors about what an average firefighter makes. So I just kind of want to know, can you clarify what that amount is?
Base salary is $65,000. When you factor in benefits, I believe we're up to $115,000. I'm
Okay.
getting the nod from my financial guru over there, and she's giving me the thumbs up.
Base salary,
yes.
64, okay. So then if you put in okay, so our 600,000 plus the appropriations of what, 750? That's what we're gonna, let's just say approximately 1.3 million. I mean, that's 12 firefighters you could have.
That would open a station, yes, ma'am.
That would open a station.
Well, 1.6 would get me to a station, yes.
Okay. There you go. That's huge for me. So anyway, okay.
That's huge for me
Yes,
Well,
it
then
is. And
and 35 other people.
and my heart goes out to you. It really, really, truly does.
Well, and
Thank
they've
you,
been
ma'am.
negotiating with the county.
So
In Las Vegas, they don't pay taxes on the baseball stadium in Las Vegas. So
Well,
it's a
but
different structure. And they've been trying to work it, the county's been working with them and stuff like that.
yeah, but can you imagine? I mean, we all pay our taxes, so
Oh, no.
everyone freaks out, and then you hear about, billionaires coming in and not paying their taxes. I think people would be up in arms over that. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate your clarification.
Councilwoman, I want to clarify one thing on the property tax payments, and maybe Mr. Chisel can help me with this. But the amount that is scheduled to come to RDA under that actually would not change the amount that we receive. Is that correct? Because we're operating under the settlement agreement with the county?
Correct. What we have is a settlement agreement where the RDA is guaranteed a certain minimum floor. It would just displace what is being paid for by others. So it would still receive the same amount in the RDA. It's
I guess I'm
it's
confused.
complicated. Well, we
Okay.
have a settlement agreement with the county, the city of okay, let me start over. The Redevelopment Authority, where the city of Reno has a settlement agreement with the city of Reno, Washoe County School District, Washoe County, and the state of Nevada in regards to implementation of Nevada revised statutes in regards to how property tax is collected for the increment of the RDA. The RDA, based on this Nevada revised statutes, is guaranteed a minimum of $2.7 million a year as increment because of bond covenants and bond pledges. Therefore, as long as that settlement agreement, which is through 2018, is in place, we will get $2.7 million allocated from the city of Reno, Washoe County School District, Washoe County, state of Nevada, back to the Redevelopment Authority. So if there is additional money that would go to the RDA, it just reduces the amount that the other agencies would have to pay.
Okay.
It gets rather
Complicated.
complicated.
It's very complicated. All right, thank you. Thank you very much,
When
Mr.
was
Chisel.
that agreement executed?
January of 23?
It was September of 2011 or 2012?
No.
2012?
With the county, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was September 2012.
Okay. The whereas, what I can't figure out is, this is our resolution adopting the budget. We've got $161 million we're adopting, right? Our third whereas says, whereas in accordance with our resolution 7809 and redevelopment resolution 216, we have a settlement with SK Baseball and the agency to settle outstanding claims, restructure financing agreements, and make certain annual payments pursuant to the restructuring agreement dated January 2013. We have numerous agreements for obligations, whether they're interlocals or, debt covenants. Why in adopting this budget does this one of many agreements raise to the level of being a whereas in our resolution? A whereas is a strong statement of legislative intent, and I'm just wondering why we're calling out this one.
Tracy
Councilwoman
Chase,
Brecker.
maybe I can assist with that. Reno City Attorney's Office. Last year in the budget cycle, council specifically requested that language as a whereas, so we've included it in the budget. I think part of the concern was to reflect, as part of the documentation, that the payment to baseball was included in the budget, so it was easy to find. And if I remember correctly, the council requested that. Am I correct?
That's correct.
We asked for that?
You did.
Okay, well, I don't think it needs to be there this year. What are we going to have it in there for the next 30 years? Are we going to put whereases for every other agreement? So I would motion that we strike it out. We know it's in because the payment's in because it'll be in the book when we get it, but I would motion that we pull it out.
Deputy City Attorney Ann Wilkinson, there's no legal effect to leave it in or take it out, so whatever council's direction is satisfactory.
It doesn't change anything, so.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion.
Motion dies, lack of a second. Everybody wants to whip up on baseball. Baseball did everything they said they would when they came to town. No, wait a minute. They did everything. They spent the money. We promised them certain things. The economy changed, and they didn't get it. And so they're not deadbeats or anything, and they're trying to work. They could close that station up. Y'all want to default? Default it. I'll show you an expansion of the homeless shelter. No, that's what would happen. That baseball stadium would be turned into hell right now. And the people of the baseball, they don't deserve to be beat up every time we turn around and look at something. We made a deal. We found out we couldn't live with our deal, and so we worked out the next best thing in a deal. And I think it's time you either close it down or do whatever you want to do. But you're going to go into a default if you do it over the next 5 years, is it? Yeah. 5 years, you go into a default, then it's an LLC, it goes back to an LLC. You have no personal guarantees like you have today for them to pay off that baseball stadium and give it to us if they move the stadium. And if you think we'll ever get a baseball team in this community again, you're really having a dream. Yes, let's make a motion on the item C1, the staff report, to accept the staff report. G1, I've scratched mine out so much. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. No, this is the next one. That was the staff report on the final. And now we go to item G12,
It's
the resolution.
number 7974, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2014-15 budget, including tax levies and adopting the fee schedule for the city of Reno, Nevada for the fiscal year 2014-15.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that, okay, show all that opposed, no. Show the vote, 5-1. No, he's not on the phone. All right, redevelopment agency. Item G21, staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Kate Thomas for the record. I covered the RDA information
Yes.
in my previous remarks.
Okay, staff
I have
will
a-
accept the motion to accept the report.
I'll accept the report, but I have a few questions on a few line
Well,
items
let me have a
here.
motion.
Okay, I'll motion.
Do I have a second? Have a second. Now discussion.
Okay. On page 5 of Form 12, it's Schedule B, shows that the and I'm just, it's kind of a briefer to understand what the composition of the redevelopment agency budget is. It's really an out-of-sight, out-of-mind thing because it's very inactive. It's just basically paying off debt. But tell me how motor vehicle privilege tax is built in as a revenue for the redevelopment agency. How does the redevelopment agency get motor vehicle privilege tax? Are these too deep, these questions?
For the record, John Shipman, Deputy City Attorney. Yeah, you have to go back in the Wayback Machine for that, because there was, there was a time when redevelopment only had debt and you didn't have operating, and at some point in time, the legislature gave that piece as kind of a quid pro quo to get some other thing done, and it's been built into the budget, at least for the last 15 years, as far as I know.
Does the council have discretion over that, to put that in the general fund and let the bondholders and debt holders write it out on what TIF is incremented?
I don't believe they do, but, we can definitely look at that. I think it's increment. It functions as increment, so as long as it's for a redevelopment purpose, I think you can do with it as you see fit, but
It's incremented over the city's overall motor tax revenues?
again, I apologize. I'll go back and
Okay,
I'll
we'll
pull
have
it
a talk
and-
about
yeah,
that later.
yeah.
So also, on the next page, it shows redevelopment agency 1 having $655,000 in service and supplies. And going up to 870 this year. What are those for?
Councilwoman Breckus, Kate Thomas for the record. I don't have the specific line items in front of me. I apologize.
Okay.
I know we had presented that to you at the.
How about one last question? There's some city general fund coming in, $108,000. Never mind. Okay. I'll sit down with you on some of these other ones then.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item G22, resolution.
Resolution number 218, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2014-15 final budgets for the redevelopment agency, number 1 and number 2 of the city of Reno, Nevada.
Second.
Have motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H1.
Mr. Mayor, Tracy Chase, Reno City
Gotta
Attorney's
wait.
Office, that's a 3 o'clock time certain, and you have 4 minutes.
What's that?
4 minutes.
Oh, good. Madam Secretary, have all the notices been sent?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, proper notice was given, and we received one letter of protest from Patrick Mooney, 131 California Avenue, and
Okay.
455 Hill Street.
All right, we're on item H1. We have somebody wish to speak. Robert Barbana?
Yeah, I wish to speak against this. A couple of reasons. First one being that we already pay for that trench that the people voted against. I have a one-room studio. I pay 80 some odd dollars a year on top of the taxes. Now they want us to pay 90 some odd dollars a year for a one-room kitchenette, 90 some odd dollars a year extra. Second thing, reason I'm against this is because I think there's enough police downtown. I've lived here on and off for a long time, and I've seen a lot of over-policing. I was at the Chinese restaurant that's in that district, and there was a hassle, police were called, and the lady that owned it, you know, she just wanted the guy barred, but the policeman said, well, you know, we want to arrest him. I actually heard that. I thought that was unnecessary. A bar I go to, they tricked the bartender and the owner by wearing bands and having stamps, and they tricked the guy into serving somebody that was like 20 years, 11 months old or something. Okay, so they paid $500 each, $1,000 for that. I saw a kid stopped in front of my building. He was given, some looked like a sobriety test and whatnot. They held him there. More and more time, another unit comes, and they gave him, I imagine, some kind of drug test or something. And I'm watching this, right? I'm just sitting there, and they didn't find anything, and they let him go. So you can go, like, after the guy was there almost a half an hour. Like, anytime we want, we'll just, we don't say, whoa, gee, I guess we were wrong. All right. So basically, I'm against the proposal.
Thank you. Any other comments? Close the public comment section, bring it back to the table.
The gentleman who just spoke, what's his address?
His address is 100 North Arlington Avenue,
Okay.
Unit 1.
It's the Park Towers.
12A.
Arlington Towers.
Arlington Towers. Okay, I just, just for his information, this assessment district has a committee that meets every month. And that's where, I attend, I'm the liaison. Some residents are on that committee. The police is well represented, and it is a point of some of the security directors from the casinos, and it is an opportunity for people who are in the assessment to come and express and talk about any issues or questions they have about the police operations in downtown. And their meeting is tomorrow at noon also, so they meet once a month, very regularly scheduled meetings.
That was a very fine report. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, Steve Hardesty, Public Works. A couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention, on this. We went back through. I got a call from a young lady over at the Montage who was complaining about her $75,000 assessment. I got a little stutter with the fives, so we would like to make that correction. That's one of the corrections we'd like to make.
I'd be upset too.
It was about $401,000 more than she needed. And then we also noticed that during the process that the AT&T building on the corner of First and Lake, the assessor has changed their land use code from 700, which would be centrally assessed where all their assessments would come from the state, to 40. So we've also included those in there and a couple of other minor adjustments. But what that does is that results in a $1,600,000 increase in assessed value for the entire district. And so what I'm proposing to you all is that we go from a rate of .005694 down to .005691, and that would be the number that we send to the county for the assessment. And that would get us our $1,520,000, if that's with your approval.
Any discussion? Any questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Any public comment cards?
I have none.
My favorite motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. This meeting's adjourned.